Welcome to Pod Applaud, the Monday through Friday podcast that aims to enable your podcast habit. I'm your host, Seb, and today we are going to have the final word on the podcast Last Scene. Last Scene is a true crime podcast that focuses on an art heist instead of a murder or something more physically violent and gruesome. There are 10 full episodes, 9 of which are reporting and following threads of the case, and the last is a live roundtable discussion regarding the show and the case itself. Episodes usually run between half an hour to 40 minutes long, and the show is all wrapped up and ready to be binged. If you have listened to my podcast since I first started, you have probably heard me talk about Last Scene already. It was in either my first or second upload, where I summed up some podcast I had really liked in 2018. The audio of that episode was pretty bad, however, so I ended up scrapping it. So I'd like to re-record and share Last Scene with you now. Last Scene takes us back to March 18th, 1990, as it retraces the heist of the Stewart Gardner Museum. We get to sit back as we are told the story of Isabella Stewart Gardner, how she got into collecting art, how she outbid the Louvre in Paris and royalty alike in acquiring her art collection, and how she grew it and established her museum in Boston. We are also plunged into a step-by-step look at all the evidence available from the night the Gardner Museum was burglarized. It is estimated $500 million worth of art vanished that day, never to be seen again. 13 paintings brutalized, cut right out of their frames. And that is the drama that sets the scene for this podcast. From this point, we are plunged into the case head first. Even though 28 years have passed, we talk to individuals who were present in Boston at the time of the heist, and follow up on all sorts of winding leads, including multiple suspects and suspicious characters. Although in the first episode they freely admit the case is open-ended and unsolved, the story still has tension and excitement. There are mob ties, acid parties, and scam artists, all sorts of high-life treachery. The show is a joint venture between the Boston Globe and WBUR, so you know the sound is perfectly balanced. I appreciate a true crime show with less grisly subject matter and just how well the story is being told. The ending really plays at your expectations and gets you wound up, thinking there might be a breakthrough in the case. But you have to remember they said in the beginning the case is unsolved. So, my only real gripe with Last Scene is that they get you maybe a little too invested in the story, to the point where you feel overzealous and you may be at the precipice in which you are let down by the end of the show. Let down not by the podcast itself, but that this case, as of yet, is still unknown. We don't have the paintings, and we don't have the perpetrator. Here on Pod Applaud, I rate shows on a 1 to 5 scale. 1 is silence, 2 is a slow clap, 3 is applause, 4 is a round of applause, and 5, of course, is a standing ovation. When I originally talked about Last Scene, I gave it a 5 out of 5, but now that it has sat with me, I'd give it a 4 out of 5, a round of applause. I'm not sure what angle they might have played to stick the landing a bit better, but I know the build-up of the show doesn't really mesh with that last episode. I would recommend the show to people who want to know what the true crime craze is all about, but want to avoid the gruesome violence and murders that are so often the topic of true crime shows. Last Scene brings all the top-notch reporting and really does make you feel the loss of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, Boston, and the art world as a whole. That's been the show for today. If you found it valuable, be sure to subscribe for more podcast reviews. If you wish to reach out or follow me, you can find me on Twitter at podapplaud, or send an email to podapplaud@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and please tune in again.